Welcome back to another episode of The Kid Stays in the Podcast. I'm your host, Trey Cooper, and joining me today, as always, is...
Smirking Cooper.
Oh, that was horrendously bad.
Dude, I didn't want to say the name of the movie.
Yeah, but Solomon Cooper would have been better.
Oh, I feel like you thought you would hate that.
Smirking Cooper is
that was the first name that I thought of.
Then why didn't you do that?
Because I thought it was bad.
Smirking Cooper is terrible.
I went through several names, and I looked up like smiling demons that smile, and there was no real name. There was no the Necronomicon of demons that smile.
That was so bad it felt like I got slapped in the face.
Well, I didn't actually think it was that good.
Anyway,
it was my best.
Joining me today, as always, is Solomon Cooper, which he could just say. And we are going to be discussing the, I think, late 2022 horror movie, Smile. We wanted to watch this movie. We were really excited about it. And somehow it just slipped past our radar.
Yeah, we just love letting things slip.
Yeah, it slipped through the cracks. Pardon me if my voice is a little bit scratchy. I do have a bit of a very mild cold, but I'm going to try and refrain from clearing my throat too many times.
Good luck. I probably won't be refraining.
Like that.
That was horrible. That's not how people clear their throat.
Well, since we're reviewing a horror movie, I will say that I'm not going to commit that this podcast will be doing a review of Ant-Man. We probably will at some point, but it's likely not to be that soon. Who knows? We're kind of in a movie drought anyway, so maybe we'll do it next week, maybe the week after that. But yeah, we'd rather watch a 4 or 5 month old horror movie than watch Ant-Man at this point. Just not a lot of enthusiasm for it.
I'm sure we'll find it eventually.
So Smile, I'm sure all of you remember the very creepy ad campaign for it, is the latest in what I think is kind of a newish trend in horror movies. The horror, what would you say? Like the demon that's also basically a disease, the virus demon,
the pass it on demon.
Yeah. Is that what it's called? I can't talk. I said that's what it's called.
Yeah, you're like that pig from Looney Tunes.
Yeah, the one that's all porked up.
Yeah,
pork pig.
That's not his name.
Anyway, we're getting really. I'm getting so easily distracted right now. Off my meds. So this movie, I don't know when this trend really you'd say it started, but I would say it kind of unofficially started with like The Ring. You know, in The Ring, you watch this horrifying tape, and then you have like 24 hours or 2 days or whatever to make somebody else watch the tape, or else you die horribly.
Fun. I've never seen that.
You never seen The Ring?
Mm-mm.
We should probably watch it at some point. It's a fun movie. I don't know how well it'll hold up. And then you had more recently, you had It Follows.
Maurice?
I said more recently.
Sorry. I just thought it sounded like you said Maurice. I thought it was funny.
No, I didn't say Maurice. More recently, we had It Follows, which is making it to where the demon or the entity is basically an STD. Stop laughing. You're really throwing me off. Why are you laughing so hilariously because you said Maurice? It's not even a funny name.
It is a funny name. I think it's very funny.
It's so funny that the fact that you said Maurice is making you laugh hysterically.
Because then he said more recently again. It sounded like Maurice.
This is the most unprofessional podcast.
Keep talking.
I can't talk while you're over there cackling.
You can talk all you want.
It Follows was also in this kind of genre of movies where they pass it on the curse, but they really do make It Follows is very overtly making a metaphor for STDs because you literally pass it on by having sex with someone.
Also didn't see that, or maybe I did, but I didn't remember it.
Well, this movie I think has a lot more in common with It Follows because in The Ring, essentially this creepy demon girl would crawl out of your television set and murder you.
That's creepy.
Whereas in It Follows, it could take the face, the shape, the form of anyone. and it would just walk deliberately towards you in a straight line. It could be anyone. It could be your neighbor. It could be your dad. And they'll just start walking towards you. So if you're like at school and you all of a sudden see somebody looking at you from across the campus, and then they're just barreling over towards you.
Do they walk fast?
They walk like kind of like Mike Myers speed.
Oh, that's horrible.
So not really fast. They're not running.
How far can you outrun it? Like
That's the thing. That like the girl at the very beginning of the movie, she's just driving in her car, and she gets to the beach. So she's gone as far as you can go.
Yeah.
And she makes a little campfire, and then the next day they find her, and she's all garbled up. Because that's the thing. The thing's relentless. It just keeps walking. You have to sleep at some point. It's still walking towards you, even if you drove away. But yes,
Fly across country.
I think it's still going to get you.
What if it
Something is relentless? Yes.
It's gonna walk through the ocean,
Get on an airplane too. I don't know.
but it has to walk in a straight line.
No, it doesn't have to walk in a straight
What if
line.
you just went? What if you if it's going horizontally? What if you just go vertically? Then it can't get you.
That's stupid. Doesn't make any sense.
Hmm.
What do you mean it can't get you if you walk vertically?
Because you said it's walking in a straight line.
I meant like it just making a beeline towards you. I didn't mean it only can walk in a straight line, and if you put a brick wall in front of it, it just bangs its head up against it over and over again.
Well, I thought it was like one of those like Minecraft videos that people make.
Oh, God, I don't know why I bother with this. Anyway, Smile is much closer to It Follows, I think, because this entity can take the form of anybody.
Yeah.
Even though the movie was pretty blurry on its lore details, which we'll get into in a second, because when you spent like 7 minutes now rambling around the movie and talking about other things and me screaming at you.
Well, we're trying to get a setup going.
Yes, but we need you to give us a plot synopsis. This movie is new enough that I think a plot synopsis is in order.
Dang. Okay.
We need to have a jingle for this.
Plot synopsis.
Yeah, something like that.
Is that cool? You like that?
It'll be better than that, but yes.
Okay. I think I have this. I've read so many synopses now that I think I know exactly how I'm going to say this. After seeing one of her patients die, Rose Cotter starts seeing a terrible, terrible entity that is following her, and we don't know what it is.
Okay, sounds like you ripped that right off the IMDb page, but
Nope.
not too bad.
I ripped the first line off the IMDb page.
Yes, so at the beginning of the movie, our protagonist, Rose, one of her patients is talking about this hideous smiling creature. Stop playing with your microphone, I can hear it.
I'm trying to make sure that's up.
You keep moving it around, I can hear it in my headset.
Oh, I can't hear it in my headset.
Well, I can, so stop touching it.
Okay.
You're still touching it.
Well, I'm holding it. Can you hear it now?
Just let go of it. Why don't you just let go of it? It's a microphone on a stand. No one needs to hold on to it. See?
I liked holding it like I was doing karaoke.
No. So, yeah, her patient is telling her that there's this malevolent force, and she's going on and on about she's not crazy, and this malevolent force is always smiling and can take the face of anybody, and then she very clearly gets taken over by the force, and then she's all smiling, and then she horribly slits her own throat.
Yeah. Yeah, from cheek up or cheek down to her throat.
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly.
With a pot shard.
Yes. So yeah, after this, Rose starts to see things. She starts to see smiling people.
Mm-hmm.
But so getting into like some of the lore things, that's one of the weakest elements of the movie. Is it's a bit sloppy with its lore. You know what I mean?
Really?
I thought like in It Follows, they don't really explain it, which is fine. In this movie, they do kind of try and explain it,
Which makes it worse because
it needs to have even more internal logic.
Mm-hmm.
So they keep saying it can wear anybody's face and can do whatever, but that doesn't really, when you think about the movie, did that ever really happen other than whenever people were about to die? Because, and then even then it wasn't really, I guess it was wearing their face, you could say, but really she's just having hallucinations.
Well,
I would say that every single thing that happened to her was a hallucination.
the way that she described it was like the first patient. She said that no one else can see it. It's just people. So I don't think it's wearing other people's faces. I think But she said no one else can see it in the beginning.
She did say that also. That's what I'm saying. It's muddy, but she was kind of going back and forth about like what it could be.
Yeah, but what do you mean?
I mean, she said it will wear other people's faces.
Yeah.
She said it could be anyone.
Yeah.
But
it can be anyone, but
it's just a hallucination.
But only she can see it. That's the whole point.
But it's just a hallucination then.
Yes, it is. It's just a hallucination.
Yeah, so...
But I don't feel like that changes any of the internal logic.
I thought it was kind of weird.
I don't feel like that affects anything.
Well, because at one point that guy is like smiling at her or whatever.
Which one?
The...
Carl?
Her other patient.
Carl?
Yeah, is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, but then it definitely is implied that she just hallucinated him doing that.
Yes.
So... Yeah, you have a weird horror movie that's built around really well done, creepy jump scares.
Mm-hmm.
But
a bit too well done.
I feel like the movie, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here. I feel like the movie almost doesn't work once you realize that everything is a hallucination because then nothing can hurt her. It's just driving her insane.
It seemed like it could hurt you.
How?
Definitely seemed like it could. Do you not remember seeing what happened to that girl? She fell over and then her legs started getting lifted up.
Yeah, that's after that's at the end of your 4 days or whatever it takes for it to kill you. Because like all of these movies, you do have a time frame to do the, pass it on.
Mm-hmm.
In the case of this, we kind of buried the lead here as far as this being a demon as contagion movie. So you have two choices. You can wait until the demon takes over your body, and then it will force you to horribly, violently kill yourself in front of somebody in order to traumatize them, and then it will use that trauma to haunt them.
Yeah.
And then they get 4 days. And then later in the movie, we find out that you do have a second option. You can violently and graphically murder someone in front of somebody else, and then that will cause the curse to hop to the other person instead of to you. Right?
Yep.
So yeah, you have a timeline, but I just meant so during that 4 days
or 7,
or 7 days or however long, we know now that everything that she's seeing can't hurt her. And I don't know if you noticed this, but that was one of the reasons, as it started getting more and more demonic-y and more into how it's all in her head, the movie started being less and less scary. A horror movie, to me, should be ebbs and flows, but by the time you get to the end, you should be terrified, really clutching your, you know what I mean, pearls.
Sure.
And in this movie, it just kind of as far as the fear went, petered off.
I don't know.
I didn't think the story petered out. I just wasn't scared anymore by the end.
I disagree. I think sure by maybe the final scene, I wasn't terrified, but I think I was pretty damn scared throughout the whole thing.
Okay. It's subjective, so I can't say you weren't scared.
Yeah.
But yeah, by the time that she was seeing the therapist and it was talking in the demon voice, I wasn't scared anymore. I'm like, this is just a hallucination. It can't do anything to her. And then it's talking in the demon-y voice, so that wasn't that scary. And then by the time she's getting chased around by a huge monster.
Yeah, but it seems like it knows when something's going to see it. You know what I mean? It seems like it knows how, because whenever she...
Obviously it knows when someone's going to see it. It's the one causing the hallucinations.
That's not what I meant. I meant when someone else is going to see them die. You know what I mean? Because at the final thing, at the end of the movie, it can only kill you, right? If it
There's
knows it's going to traumatize someone. So at the very end, the guy's not into the house yet, but so he could have just left, but she had already gotten possessed.
What does this have to do with what we were talking about, though?
Because that means that that means that a person, the demon could know that a person's going to walk into the room and you're not. So I feel like she could die at any moment if her husband walked into the house.
Yeah, but you have
someone was there.
Of course, but that's the end of the 5 or 7 days or whatever. So leading up to that, nothing's going to happen to her.
Yeah, but we didn't know that at first.
But
So we were scared from the
did you
beginning.
not hear what I said at how I phrased this whole thing? I said, watching the movie again, now that you know it's all a hallucination, I feel like it kind of ruins the movie because you know nothing can happen to her.
Oh. I don't remember you saying watching it again. But yeah, sure. I mean, I still think it's the jump scares are so scary.
All right, well, we're at time, so let's take a quick break and hear from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
What are we doing here, Rusty? What are we going to do?
Yep, we're doing the King of the Hill rewatch podcast.
King of the Hill
Yes, sir.
rewatch podcast. Yeah, so we're going to go through one episode at a time. Come along for the ride with us.
Come check it out.
And give me a good like Dale Gribble quote to go out on. Wingo!
Yeah, Wingo.
Wingo!
Wingo.
All right, well, join us for the King of the Hill rewatch podcast.
Deep in the heart of Texas, that drinks his brew and he spits his chew. Deep in the heart of Texas, the TV blares but no one cares. Deep in the heart of Texas, here we go.
Hey y'all, I'm April,
Hi, I'm Caroline.
and we have a new podcast for you. What's it called, Caroline?
Bloody Happy Hour.
It's going to be your new favorite guilty pleasure. We're going to talk about some bloody stuff. Serial killers, true crime,
Rape.
rapists. Why not join us? We'll have a good time.
You literally never know. I don't know what I'm going to say. Bloody Happy Hour. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Bros and foes and heroes. Gonna tell you about bros and foes and heroes. Gonna tell you about.
Hey, I'm Zach,
And I'm Mike.
and we have a fantastic new podcast to tell you about. Bros, Foes, and Heroes. It's the two of us looking into the world of comics, breaking down some characters that you may have never heard of, and some that are just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, so Zach comes up with a character each time, and I go into it just completely blind. I don't know who this person is or what their abilities are or anything, and basically I guess we kind of go over their origin story and just some of the ridiculous stuff that maybe, especially Golden Age stuff.
Oh, Golden Age stuff is always the best, and we will make sure to highlight all of the shenanigans and just absolute weirdness of everything.
Yeah, that's right. So subscribe today and follow us on Instagram at Bros Foes Heroes.
And if you don't, I know where you live. Not really, but please subscribe.
Bros and foes and heroes. Gonna tell you about bros and foes and heroes. Gonna tell you about.
Welcome back to the Kid Says in the podcast and our discussion of Smile.
So we can move past whether or not the movie breaks down once you realize that everything is a hallucination that can't harm you physically. It can't even make you do anything. You know what I mean?
Mm-mm.
But it is very effective.
Yeah.
It's incredibly effective at the beginning. And so I'm not saying that we won't have any more cons to discuss, but I want to talk really about the pros because I really, really did like this movie.
Yeah, this movie was crazy.
Yeah, it was. It's directed by
Parker Finn.
Yeah, okay, Parker Finn. He's a first-time director. He's directed a couple shorts. One of them was adapted to this movie.
Yeah, I believe it was called Laura Can't Sleep.
Okay, and yeah, that's a great classic Hollywood story. You know, you take your short film on the road, and it gets picked up, and you get to, make it into a feature film.
Yeah,
and it does really well. I think this movie has very solid reviews, in the high to mid 70s or 80s, and it performed very well at the box office. So good for him. I'm sure we'll see a lot more from him. I don't want to see a bunch of Smile sequels because I think that even this movie was running out of juice by the end. But what I was most surprised about when we started this movie is how stylistic it is. It genuinely does. This director has a very, I'm not going to say it's wholly original style, but he has style. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was expecting kind of flat, generic looking
Yeah, so was I.
horror
honestly.
movie. Yeah.
I mean, I don't usually expect like a huge bunch of style.
Yeah. Well, what were some stylistic choices that you noticed?
There's a lot of. I think I'm gonna go straight for the score personally because he did a lot, but the score was so like weird that I don't feel like I've ever heard anything like it. Like the sound that they were making was so like uncanny and like gross that it felt just like if you were to hear that just alone in a room, you'd feel like you're going insane.
Yeah, the score was definitely standout. It was some kind of like unholy blend of random crazy sounds. I don't even know if you could really call it music.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it's almost like a rhythmic pattern of reversed screams or something. Like just so much odd stuff going on with it that you have no idea how it could have possibly like spliced up.
Yeah,
so odd.
It sounds like almost like a blasphemy of music. You know what I mean? Like anti-music.
Yeah, that's a cool way to describe it.
It was really very unsettling. It did a huge amount of work scrambling your brain, and it wasn't like, I don't remember they're even ever using it to like do jump scary things. Maybe they did and I don't remember, but
it seemed mostly there to just like set the mood of hell.
I think that the cinematography was also, even though it did kind of remind me of like Candyman, they did a lot of very odd shots. I keep saying like odd. That's not really true. They did these very specific types of shots where I know they did in Candyman a lot, but where they kind of invert or like flip the scene upside down.
Yeah.
So then people were driving on the top of the screen upside down. They flip cities upside down so they look like they were stretching down into hell or whatever.
Yeah. And I remember you were talking about this. It was like she was the main character, Laura, or not Laura, Rose was talking to like her ex-husband, and like he was like centered, like his face was centered into the frame.
Right.
So it was like weird because it's supposed to follow the rules of thirds.
Yeah, so the framing was the director very much used framing to unsettle you. You know what I mean? They'd have somebody who's talking to another character, and they would have them framed at the very tippy top, like barely taking up any screen space. So it's like a huge amount of negative space. It like just things that are unsettling to the eye. You know?
Even if you can't like notice that just off of you could, but you're
it's gonna
subconsciously
exactly
you recognize
it's
this is odd.
Something's going to be happening inside of you.
Yeah,
and it increases as the main character's kind of grasp on reality changes. Now they tried to tie this directly into trauma, and I mean, obviously the demon feeds on trauma because it has to traumatize another person to go into them. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Or to haunt them. I really think it should have left it there. I don't think there was a need. I think this is something that was probably left over from the short story that he wanted to keep in.
Okay.
But they kind of imply that everybody already had a trauma, so they were more susceptible to it, which again
kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah, it kind of weakens the lore more. You know what I mean?
I think I see what you mean.
Because they don't really explore it. Like we find out that Rose watched her mom die of an overdose. You know what I mean? And then basically didn't call for help when she was very young.
And she was scared. And her mother was like abusive.
So she has all this trauma from that.
And then like one of the professors, like, what was it, brother, best friend?
Son, I think.
Nope.
Was it?
Nope. Definitely wasn't that one.
Okay.
It was like one of the ones I said. That was right. It was like, because he died when he was like 5 or something.
Okay.
Maybe his son died when he was
I
5.
thought it said his son died when he was 5. But either way, yes, there was a family tragedy for one of the other people who had committed suicide.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't really explore that at all. And you don't get specifically the idea that this entity is targeting a specific person that it wants. You know what I mean? It's just a random person. So it's just it just feels dumb. It doesn't really make any sense. So the demon targets somebody who already has trauma, but it can't feed on them until it re-traumatizes them again with a new trauma. See what I mean? It's not clean enough.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
It just muddies the waters. They didn't need that in there. But honestly, the only other complaint I would have, I know I said we weren't going to go negative, and you can tell me if you think I'm wrong about this, is this movie falls really hard into the trope, and it goes there really quickly, of the person who is experiencing the supernatural thing immediately starts looking and acting like an insane person.
Yeah.
Instead of, because when this story is done well, it should be frustrating to the audience that no one's believing them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because they should still hopefully be able to talk and reason coherently. And they can be like, look, I have all these police files. Look how every single one of these deaths is related. You know, I know it might sound crazy. I get it. But instead, they all fully go into, I'm a lunatic. Stop saying I'm crazy. And they're all sweaty and look like they haven't showered in 3 years.
Yeah. I did notice that. I did notice that issue. And like sorry, my brain is getting really tired. I'm tired.
Okay. Yeah, you've had so much work to do.
You know, my life is busy. A busy little man as a 16-year-old. So much stuff to do.
You go to the fun house and you play with your friends all day, and you come home and you play with your friends all day.
Oh my god. You continue talking.
No,
because I completely forgot what I was going to say.
You're talking about her, how she she just went from being a very put together.
I completely remember my thought now. The whole time, like from like the first time, like the first 2 days of it happening, she seems very smart because she's like a doctor. She's like a psychiatrist or whatever, therapist, and like an emergency therapist. And you can tell that she seems very smart, and like her therapist is like, yeah, from the way I'm sitting, it seems like you don't need anything because you're very obviously using coherent speech and whatever. So what felt very odd, like the shift from her being completely smart and normal, and then her, whenever she's about to talk to people, sounding stupid and crazy.
Well, I actually thought that they already had made her look crazy before that. I thought that scene with the therapist rang really false to me. The therapist is like, I don't see anything wrong with you. You seem totally fine. And I'm like, no, she doesn't. She seems like a crazy person.
Well, she looks like a crazy person, and she's like asking for these drugs, but
she's asking for drugs. She looks like she hasn't showered. Her face is like all like
very pale
and like oily. Eyes are sunken, and her mannerisms. So it's a combination of I just don't think that the director modulated her performance well enough.
I disagree. I feel like you could tell from her body language, but I think she wanted to sound smart enough to be able to.
But a therapist, this is an old lady therapist. This lady's been seeing a million people. She'd be able to look at your body language and the fact that you look like you haven't showered in 3 years and your eyes are so sunken deep into your skull like a raccoon's. I'm just saying, I think the director could have modulated that performance a little bit better throughout the film, so we see her slowly going crazy. Because also, obviously when she starts hallucinating things, that would put you off and make you start feeling crazy. Mm-hmm. But this is a woman who works in the emergency psychiatric ward. This lady has seen people cut themselves before. You know what I mean? Yeah. So obviously something a little bit more unsettling about this, but the fact that she just goes completely nuts almost, it's a little bit too much. And it just happens too fast.
Okay.
Especially when she goes to she goes to her sister's birthday party and she's just sitting there screaming, holding a dead cat, screaming, "It wasn't me," over and over again. It was just, she looked like a Looney Tunes.
Yeah, she did. There's some Looney Tunes things going on. She did dead cat in a box. She ordered a sweet train.
Yeah, and then she killed her own cat and put it in a box.
Which is weird. I don't even understand how that possibly could have happened.
Yeah, exactly. That's the other thing. We don't ever get the sense that the demon is anything other than a hallucination.
Yeah, so how could it have killed the cat?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
And
The
how
movie
could-
has a
we
bunch
never
of
saw her kill the cat.
the movie has a bunch of internal like logical flaws. They should have their lore wasn't fully fleshed out.
Sure.
Because we also don't get the impression that the demon can just take you over. Especially when we see at the end when it does take her over, what is happening.
Oh, it's creepy AF.
Yeah, so as fudge, I hope that's what you mean.
Of course.
Okay. But yeah, so we don't get the impression this demon can just take you over for like little bits of time and make you do stuff.
Oh no, it's like a thing.
Yeah, so whenever the cat gets killed, again, we don't really understand how that works. Like what did the demon just go kill a cat and then put it in a box and then wrap it up?
Yeah,
Does the demon do gift wrapping?
That is a bit weird. How could that have possibly happened?
Exactly. Anyway, all these negatives aside, this is an incredibly stylistic movie. I would say, for a first horror feature, a movie that any director should be proud of. You're not really thinking about these logical fallacies when you're watching the movie, because if you're like us, you're very scared.
Yeah. Then I think the positives I think they outweigh the negatives, but we just figured we would let you know what you're going into. But I'd say overall the movie's very good.
Yeah, there's some hokey pokey dialogue at some different places.
I thought there's one specific spot that I thought was
Most of the scenes with her and Usher had some hokey.
Yeah.
Thinking of
the one where they're like in the car and she's like confessing what she's going through, and then he like gets out of the car being like, "Whoa, this sounds crazy. I'm going inside. How do you expect me to deal with this?" Talking about ghosts.
No one can see what you're doing.
Walks away. I mimed walking.
That was the worst impersonation of Usher I've ever heard in my entire life.
His voice is very high pitched.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of scenes like that. A lot of them were like scenes where she's explaining stuff to people for just over and over again.
Yeah.
About the ghost and how, and then there were
It's not a ghost.
Yes, an evil entity, a curse.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I would say that if I was going to rate this movie, I'd give it somewhere between like a 7.5 or 8.
Yeah.
Probably closer to 7.5.
I'd probably go for the same thing.
But really strong, a really strong one.
Yeah, really hardcore.
Yeah.
7.5 or an 8.
I don't, I mean, I know that, like I said, it did great. I know a lot of people went and liked it and really enjoyed it. But I did see some backlash on social media from some of the folks that I know who like horror movies, who thought it was really stupid or not scary at all. I disagree strongly with them. I don't think that it was, I thought it was very, very scary. And I also kind of question, it's kind of like when snobby horror aficionados or just maybe film aficionados in general say something like, "Oh, I think Rosemary's Baby is the scariest movie of all time."
I don't know what that is.
Or, okay, so imagine The Shining with even less scary things happening.
Oof. Well, how do you even do that? That's not even a horror movie.
You have nothing.
Yeah, okay. That's what I thought. That's just a movie.
Or The Shining, you know what I mean? The Shining, at least, like, I can understand why people, when it came out, saw it. But when you know what I mean? Or if someone stopped to see it when they're a kid. Now, this is not me saying that old movies can't be scary.
Yeah.
I mean, The Exorcist terrified me for years and years and years.
Well, you said terrified, past tense.
Well, I haven't seen it in a long time. I told myself, I swore to God that I would never watch it again if he would let me stop having these horrible nightmares.
Oh, that's horrible.
But yeah, I think that some people maybe, because this movie at the end of the day is kind of campy.
Yeah.
It gets full camp by the end, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, she's getting chased around by a giant, gangly, half-naked lady demon.
Yeah. Very barbarian-esque.
Yeah. Anyway, that's our time. Hope you enjoyed our discussion of Smile. And yeah, you can check it out on demand. Right from the comfort of your living room.
Yes, you can.
So until next time.
Yep.
We're going to peter this out just like the movie petered out.
All right. Goodbye.
Follow us on Instagram at The Kid in the Pick and on RogueMediaNetwork.com.
Until next time.
This has been a Rogue Media podcast.